Hello, everyone. Just checking to see that you can hear us and see me typing in the chat. There we go. Now it's connected properly. Yay for us. Fantastic. It should start any second now. Just got to give it a moment to connect. And we are going live. Okay, get the chat back up. Hi, sorry about that. We're a little bit late. We had some technical issues, as one does when one is doing a stream, but I figured it out. We're here to talk about becoming a better game developer. Rick and Stefan, we're going to specifically be talking about taking your game from the prototype stage, which we all know and love starting a game. It's nice and straightforward, into the polished phase, and that can be 80% of your entire project. So we're going to talk about that, give you some learnings, give you some knowledge, give you some tips that Stefan's just recently been going through with the game he's been working on. And we know that a bunch of people are here ready to hear about our ultimate indie program, so we'll be talking about that a little bit and definitely answering any questions you might have about it. So please do get your questions ready. I'll be happy to answer those. So all in all, we're going to take about 60 minutes. That's the game plan here. The first half, Stefan is going to be going through some great stuff that he's plucked straight from our upcoming program, but hopefully it's valuable for you no matter what stage of your journey you're in. So Stefan, let's get started. Let's talk about this joyful phase of trying to finish, polish, bug fix, and get your game to completion.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about this because I think we're all in a boat where we've created a ton of prototypes. That's a fun part. It's you can come up with loads of cool ideas, but it's the remaining 80% to get that prototype into something else and then turn it into like a polished game that you can actually release. So we created a game for this whole indie dev program, and that was a really exciting journey. And I was lucky enough to record every single step of everything that I do. So I have a pretty good track record of knowing exactly how long things take and what type of items that you tend to get stuck on. So I've prepared a few slides here, but we'll jump into questions if there are that later on too, of course. But I just wanted to show a few things. And the first thing, like a prototype, you can get that up in a couple of days, especially with the game engines these days. So already at day 2, I had something where I could just use my controls a little bit, and I was creating a platformer for this project. It's a bit of a go-to project when it comes to doing something to see how things work, and maybe a lot of the first games that people are making are platformer clones. So at day 2, I already had something where you could control a little character, jump a few platforms, and see what it felt like. And the whole key thing, of course, when you do the prototype is just doing something with primitive object, and the focus is on player control. Can I get my character to feel a bit like I want to? Is the camera moving the way I want to? And is the scale and speed of the game is what I envisioned? So usually this is where we're at the first week of development. And the whole point at this stage is, does it feel right? Is it like when I jump and when I come to a platform and when I clear a gap, is the speed correct? Is the gravity correct? So once you're at prototype stage, then you need to turn that into like the vertical slice. And in my case, that took 22 days of pretty much worked every day on it. And then it was improving the visuals to see, is it going to be visually appealing to something that could potentially be something that could be sellable at the end. So, and then a lot of focus on the feedback loop of the gameplay itself. So it looks a little bit similar to the prototype, but the feedback loop was when I shoot, am I getting enough bullets out? And when the bullets hit something, is it destructing? In this case, we grew it into we wanted to destroy the environment too. Does that feel right? And then adding a bit of sound and music to see, does it feel right when things are happening on the screen? And a lot of playtesting started here, and me and Rick had the meetings where we were discussing, when you're playing the game, is it fun? So the whole key at this part of the vertical slice is it fun? So do you want to keep playing a little bit longer, and what feels right about it? So, and then here's the big one, and this is what the topic is going to be when we're talking about this one. And the polished game, that was at day 281. So it's the remaining 80%. It's taking it from that vertical slice. And the thing is that the vertical slice usually feels like it's pretty ready to go. You're like, yeah, I'm nearly there now. In a few days now, I'll have the full game. But it's implementing it to a fully featured game. So it's adding those so menu states, you have game states between it, you have level design, you're going to have multiple levels to clear. The progression, does that feel right? Is the balance correct? Is are the visuals polished? And that's when we get into, can the game succeed at the end? So that's, I think, a lot of the big challenges are here between the vertical slice and the polished game.
Stefan, can I just quickly say something while we've got that there? One of the things that we'll be going through in the program is all the steps from thinking about the game to is it fun or not, to polish, marketing, selling it, etc. I just want to be really clear because we've had a lot of questions on this. We're not showing you how to build the game. We're not getting into the game engine and saying, okay, line 7, you need to type this, the parentheses, semicolon, whatever. That's not what we're doing in the program at all. That's because within the program, it's all about you being an indie game developer and you thinking about your own game, coming up with your own ideas, going through the process of implementing it. What we're trying to do is give you a framework, give you a step-by-step. And also the really cool thing is you get to watch all those conversations that Stefan and I had on day 7, on day 20, on day 50, on day whatever, to see what we were worried about, what we were thinking about, what the decisions we made, the technical challenges, and so on. So that's the thing that we've been wanting our whole indie game development careers is, can I just watch someone else while they make a project? Can I just see what they did at what stage so I know how to go about doing it? So that's what we're trying to share with you. All right, sorry for the distraction there. I just know that was the number one question people have had. It doesn't matter whether you're a Unity or Godot or Unreal person or something else. That's not what we're trying to do in this program. We're not trying to teach you coding or a language.
Yeah, and it's also important to know that because the gap is big there from day 22 to 281, and I see in the chat too, like a bit of a open eye thing, and it's important to know too there that it's not it's not 260 days of solid development from that on, because as you bring it from the vertical slice into the polished game, a lot of the things that you're going to be spending your time on is play testing, getting feedback, and the days will tick on. And maybe in my case, I had a lot of stuff to do when I was working on the program content and things, so it's sort of stretched out over that time. So if that would have been compressed into solid development, it could have been done faster. But
yeah,
and then setting it up on Steam page.
You had your day job. I use air quotes because it's not literally a day job, but you had day job stuff to contend with in there. If you were to take a guess, if you were to condense it down into you do nothing else except for work on this game, how long are we talking?
Yeah, I probably could have gotten that one down to maybe day 90 or something, or 80, if I did nothing else.
Okay, so 3 months. That's good to know.
Yeah.
Cool.
But it's also good to know that a lot of the stuff that came into the polished game was that included local multiplayer and localization. So it literally brought it to a release ready game by that day. So that was and probably playability in the hundreds of hours replayability scale. So.
Yeah.
I think we'll bring it on to like what Rick was saying. What we'd like to really focus on is because a lot of the courses that are out there and available are game engine specific to bring you from a specific, it'll create that vertical slice. It'll do something like a prototype. But what we really want to talk about here is in those in that gap now between the vertical slice and the finished game, we want to focus on a lot of. So we've sliced it into this matrix. We call it the success matrix, and this will be recurring in the program a lot when we're talking about that, because the first thing is to get the 5-second wow, which is the visual appeal of a game. So you need to catch that, grab the attention in a social media feed or something. And then it brings it to the 5-minute stickiness, we call it. And that's the fun factor. Is it fun to play? So when you had that vertical slice and me and Rick was playing it and we started to get some other people in to play it, then we started to get a feeling for why isn't this part fun? What's even at 5 minutes, we don't really feel like we want to keep playing it. So we had meetings about that. And that's all covered in the program too. And the kind of changes that we made to bring it to get it to that 5-minute stickiness. And then it's all about the balance and quality in those remaining, the big 80% gap there. And how do we get the 5-hour durability? And that's how do you keep coming back to the game, and why do you want to play it again and again and again? And how can you progress from there? And then we bring it on from there. And once you've got those 3 key components there with the 5-second, 5-minute, and 5-hour, we're looking at the worthiness, we call it. And that's the value of the game. Is the player going to feel like a value when they're starting to play the game? Is it going to be rewarding in that sense, that they feel like if the game costs $5 or $10, are they going to get enough hours of enjoyment out of it? And the freshness is the unique selling point. And in this game's case, it was a destructive environment and the super fast pace and having a modern take on a historic in a historic setting. So that was you have to find like a unique selling point. So we speak a lot about that. And then the tightness, that's also the polish. I had to refine the input controls many, many times, and the speed of the game, and little things here make a big difference. And one things that we talk about that, Rick, in one of our meetings that we had, is that, did you change something? Because it doesn't feel right. And
Let
I
me
had to
shoot
accidentally
this. I'm
change.
like, this sucks.
Yeah, it was open feedback. And that's
Yeah.
getting that straight feedback is really good, because he said it doesn't feel fun anymore. And I had accidentally changed the rate of fire and the durability of the blocks that we were hitting, and it really took the fun out of it. So that tightness and spending the time to iterate of that was really important. And then we go to the further down we get into this is where we get to eyeballs, which is marketing. So how do you get people to how can you market something like that in the end? And the share worthiness, making it so that a streamer or a YouTuber would like to play this game on YouTube or Twitch and live. And can you create funny moments? We put ragdolls in there to make it a little bit more fun. We put a bit excessive gore sometimes that can be disabled. So those type of things, some quirky enemies. And how can we build something that a community would enjoy too? So I think this is what the focus of the program will be, and there'll be things for any game engine in there too. And a lot of the over-the-shoulder recordings, the game devlogs I've got, that's Unity based, because I created that in Unity. But the methodology, the ideas behind everything can be employed and taken into any game engine.
Stefan, the thing I really love about this, I won't waffle too much, I promise, because we've got a lot to get through in a short amount of time. I really love that it focuses our energy away from, is the game fun, or my game is boring. There's so many components to look at along the way. You need a game that's going to stand out for people to even want to give it a try. You need a game that's going to grab their attention when we play it, so you want to talk to your friends about it. You need a game that's going to be very good for YouTubers to play, so they can play it and give you extra promotion. So in terms of having a successful game, it's more than just, it's kind of fun, I like it. There's a lot of elements to consider. And if you do it all at the same time, then with a checklist and with a plan of attack, then you can make those decisions in an informed way. It gives you extra tools to figure that out. So sorry for that side point. I'm mindful we're going to run out of time because of this guy.
No. That's good. So the question then, I guess, is a how that we'll focus a little bit more on here now. So how do you get it from the vertical slice? Because I think a lot of people are in that vertical slice. They have this thing, they can play it, but how do you bring it to that polished game and the final product? And there are a few things. So fighting scope creep is one thing I think a lot of us have to deal with all the time. And that was if you're in a game jam, it's a really, like, you create a game in 2 days, so you have to fight the scope creep. And the good thing while creating this show, like the sample case for this program, was that I had to fight scope creep too. There were loads of things that I wanted to put in the game, but I knew that it's not going to be possible within this time frame to do it. So if you work within those constraints and keep fighting that one and say, no, okay, I'm going to wait with this one until maybe an update, I can put the stuff that I've got, all my ideas, I'll write them down instead. I won't start to implement them. I won't plan to put that in the game, but I'll queue them up for a future update. Or you could do maybe a sequel instead in the future. If the game, if you land the game, then keep those ideas for the sequel, or even a DLC, depending on what type of game that you have. So keep fighting the scope all the time. If it starts to creep up in you, that's I think that's one of the greatest battles, and it's a hard one because we want to do things like turning something like this into a Metroidvania or something could be tempting, but it's then you add like a year's worth of development. So the key thing is to frame it so that you can cope with it. Another tool that you have at your disposability is reusability. So, for example, assets, that was one of the things that I made for this game. I only made a few assets, and then I reused a lot of them. And that could be, for example, if you have different armatures between characters, or you have different templates that you can work on, or different environment items, then you can reuse those in your game to save some time. Same thing with code. Instead of creating a player script or a player movement script and an enemy movement script, you reuse the code and you think about it a little bit earlier on, and you make a character movement script that you can share between all the components. That was a few of the tools that I used for increasing the speed of of the development. Another thing was sharing animations between different enemies, so I didn't have to keep doing those over and over again, because when you multiply and start add 10, 5, 10, 20 enemies, if they can share the animations, it's a powerful tool. And levels, that was another thing. We made this game deliberately as a procedurally assembled game, instead of because I knew that having to create a ton of different levels and design them manually would take a long time. So you can reuse, in this case, we used level segments of 40 block wide level segments that we could assemble and make a variety of the game and gradually ramp up the difficulty. So for this game, we can see that I've got 3 things playing at the same time. So with only, I think it's less than 50 3D assets, and there's only one stone block in the game that's rotated in different angles. And there are only 2 tree models in the whole game, 2 simple tree models, but by changing the size and the scale and rotating it and applying different colors to them, it could become a very visually different game. And going from summer on the left screen, in the middle we changed it so you can go to an autumn level, so it changes the feel of the game. There's only one grass block, there's only one little tug of grass there too. So there's not that many assets, and it could be reused over and over again. And the same thing for the level segments. And the variety comes by assembling them in different order and having it destructible, so the player can actually carve their own path. So it's not that many assets in this game. And if you can find that level and then maybe balance it by using post-processing, in this case, there are some bloom effects and some depth of field effects, so you can achieve that. So you don't have to put a ton of content into the game necessarily. You can
one of the things I love about how you've shown us reusability in this game is you've got the elements in the foreground, so those buzzsaw things that you have to get out of the way of. And at some point in the process of you polishing the game, you put a bunch of those assets way back in the background, all depth of field blurry. And I didn't really realize them at first, but then after a while, because we were talking about the game and discussing it, I noticed that it was the exact same asset at the back there, but it didn't matter. It looked really cool. It gave flavor to the back of the world. So that's just one little example of reusability. You don't have to go and make background assets. You take something you're using in the foreground, you make it really huge and you blur it out. So I think that was really cool the way you've shown us that.
Yeah, and it's a good way to reuse the assets. And another thing that I've noticed over the years, I've done tons and tons of prototypes when it comes to platformer games. And one of the things is it's really important for the player to be able to see where they're playing. So just putting something like a transparent, I used just a transparent pane and some fog to brighten up the background a lot, so it was easy to see the contrasts for the player, and then have something in the background. That was something that could come through, because when you play the game yourself over and over again, you sort of train your eyes to see that you know what to look for. But there are a few of those tools that you can employ it to make it easier for the player to play the game. There are a few shortcuts too that you can make. So again, it could be difficult with the motivation and getting to the end of it, because not all the tasks that we do are that fun. So you'll get into periods where you have to do something repetitively, or something is like fighting a bug or something, and you don't feel like you're getting anywhere. So it's there are a few shortcuts, I guess, you can do, or tools that you can apply. And one thing is really powerful. It's just simple to-do lists with small tasks, especially if you feel yourself starting to procrastinate and go on YouTube a little bit and don't feel like you want to work on the game a little bit more, or I'll try something else. But if you start to create small to-do lists, I did that every day that I started. When I came to sit down with this project, I created a to-do list, and I thought, okay, these are the things that I'm going to be doing. And it could be super small things. It's just like adding sparks when the bullets hit the impact because you couldn't quite see it, or adding little light flashes, or modeling the big blade that's spinning. So little small tasks that I could be taken off one by one, and then set short-term goals too. So by the end of this week, I should be able to play the game, or by the end of this week, I should have one of the level segments done, or I should have some of the features that I've been planning in place. So you set those short-term goals. And another one I'm trying to illustrate with these two little hand drawings I made here. It's to get to a minimum viable product first and then come back. So if you're going to make a car for your game, it doesn't have to run perfect first. It doesn't have to look great. It's a bit clunky. If you can steer it and it gets you from point A to B, that's good enough at that point, and you can come back to it later on and do the polish. So it's an iteration there all the time that you go back and forth. Don't get stuck on one thing for too long. And then another tool that you have, or a shortcut, is to batch similar tasks. So when you do something and you know I've got to do a bunch of these, then allocate your time when your mind is in that state, and then you do those and batch those tasks together and get through them. And then that'll optimize your time instead of going back and forth between different things. So whether it's 3D modeling or animating, if your mindset is in that frame, or like I do a lot of the assets myself, but I know that a lot of people will be in a different boat where they're getting assets from either they're buying assets or using free assets. So it could be a matter of gathering the different assets that you want. So if you're looking for assets, it's good to look for multiple at the same one to see that they're matching the same visual style and that they all fit your game. So batching those together, and then alternate to fun tasks, because every now and then we run into things that are super, super, super boring, incredibly boring. Especially like the bug problems are the worst ones for me, especially if it's a tricky bug that it seems like you're not able to get through. And sometimes it could be fun to alternate the tasks so you can charge your batteries. Even if it breaks the batching thing, then it could be if you need to switch to the fun tasks to gather some motivation. So in my case, I switched over to music and sound effects for a while because the game was super quiet, and it was I thought, okay, well, it's easy to create, like, get some sound effects, so I'll put some of those in there, and it sort of lights the sparkle a bit again, and then you can get through those boring things.
Stefan, just on that point, one of the greatest bits of advice I ever heard was at a GDC talk in Vancouver, Canada. Actually, it was a Canadian GDC, and or thereabout, a conference is what I'm trying to say. And the guy stood up there and he said, "You need to make your game look pretty way earlier than you think you should, so that you enjoy your game, so that you love your game, so that when you show it to people, they're like, ooh, that looks good." What a lot of us do is we leave the visual polish until way after we've finished all the features and figured it out. You show it to people, they're like, nah, this looks kind of crap. This looks terrible. And you work on it yourself and you don't feel excited and inspired. So I think that alternating to fun tasks, before your game is even ready, you need to go put in a particle effect when you explode, or you need to have some sort of nice transition between your loading. And I think that really helps keep you excited about your game rather than waiting until the end, which is sort of the traditional waterfall way of getting your game looking polished and good.
Yeah. See some questions too. I guess we'll get to those later on. But if we could clarify at some point, the difference between this and a normal course, if it's a series of lectures or something else. But I guess we'll come to questions. I'll go through this one a bit first too. So if we've seen the shortcuts, there are a few other tools that I'd like to promote. And when I speak to game developers, and I run my own Discord, and I have a lot of discussions with other people that are making games, and something that I often seem to like, there's a bit of a pitfall.
You're gonna have a fight here. There'll be programmers in the room that are like,
yeah,
"Oh, it must be nice code." I agree with you on this, Stefan.
Oh, thanks. Back me up.
Get the game working. Who cares if it looks like trash? Like, as long as you understand it. But we can't teach that in our courses because we're trying to teach you how to be a good programmer and good coding practices. But
yeah. So my message here is don't obsess over the code and don't make it super super great. I know it's tempting, and I speak to a lot of developers through before I became a game developer too, I was doing stuff. So I speak to developers, and I know it's easy to get to, like, you want to make it beautiful, but especially if you're a solo project, if you're an individual making a game, don't obsess over it and make it super pretty and modular and reusable to begin with. Just make it work and then move on from there, and you can always refactor and come back to it later. Because I see people that are starting to even rewrite the game 2-3 times from scratch because they weren't happy with the code, and it's still in the prototype phase all the time, and it's not moving forward because it's literally rewriting the code over and over again. So that's just another tool. And for shortcuts too, well, in the program we'll speak more to like quite a bit of hands-on too. So when it comes to whether you've purchased assets from someone else, or if you're using free assets, or if you're doing them yourself, doing them yourself, then we're going through tools like how can you take those and make some shortcuts and multiply those assets by just doing simple modifications to them in a 3D software. So that's and then in 2D software, and we go through it for audio effects, and so whether it's different type of art assets, and whether you've sourced them from somewhere else or if you're creating them yourself, there are tools that you can do without too much skill. You can go in and make those type of changes. So that was another one. And then feedback is super important, and I think I fall into this category where I like to do I like to sit on my own and do my own thing, and then just if and other people better like it. But it's it's very important to start getting the feedback in and having people play the game, because you'll get used to playing the game and it'll feel right to you, but you need fresh eyes all the time on your, when you go from the vertical slice to the polished product. That whole thing is going to be, it's going to be a key process that you'll have to go through. Test it yourself, but also get other people to test it, gather their feedback and listen to it. I know it's easy to dismiss it and say, well, it's you just don't get it yet or something. But take that to heart and roll with the punches, and actually see, is there some bit of truth in there, and then try to adapt your game to base on that. Because if people are feeling that when they're starting to play your game, and they're going to be the customer of the game in the end, and if that doesn't click, if they're not happy with it, then it's not going to be a successful game. So you really need to take that feedback and bring it on.
You know what? In today's day and age, we have so many more tools than we had back in the day. I think the best thing to do when it comes to getting feedback is to watch your player play your game. So if you've got a friend or someone from the community that you can say, hey, just let's stream, share your screen while you play it. The frame rate might be a little bit low, but you're watching it and seeing where they get stuck, seeing what they do, seeing whether they just run straight through, they've skipped all the story elements, or they get frustrated, or they do something over and over, or you're like, the barrel's right there, why aren't you shooting it? I think that visual over the shoulder feedback is really, really useful. And there's so many tools to do that with nowadays. Just jump on a Zoom call and watch while someone plays it. It's amazing.
Yeah. And maybe we can tie that a little bit into, since this is the format now of a 6-week program, and if it was a course where you consumed the video lectures and then you applied it, that's one thing. But the good thing with this program is that we'll be in a forum, and a lot of people will be in different phases. Some people might be starting a game, some will be in the middle of a game, and someone might be in the marketing phase and want to focus on that. But the good thing is we can all be in the Discord. We can share where we are in our different games and get other people's eyes on it that are in a similar situation. Everyone's going to be there to be interested to improve the game to a point where, how can I make this game better? How can I make that 5-second pop? Or I'm struggling with a 5-hour durability. And then we can look at those different games, and hopefully the community of people that are in the exact same boat will be able to to benefit from being in this sphere together during the duration of the program.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have just a few more things I wanted to talk about here. That was the feedback loops. So that's another topic I think that is underestimated sometimes. It's easy for as a game developer, when you start making games, especially with game engines these days, it's easy to just like have a Unity project or a Godot project or an Unreal Engine project, and you just make things happen. So maybe you're following a template of a first-person shooter or something like a tower defense game or something, and then you drag the assets in and you create the game loop, and you think, okay, so this is a game now, I suppose. But we focus a lot about the actual feedback loop. So when your game outputs something's happening in the screen. It influences the player and what they want to do. So, and that loop really has to click. And it's so easy to fail on that one. And when I created a lot, like I did the 13 Ludum Dare jams back to back. And for a long time in the beginning, it was like, why isn't it fun to play the game? Stuff is happening on the screen. I'm happy with the way it looks, but it's not that fun. And I think a lot of people that are releasing their first game, they bring it down to like, I was not lucky enough to get noticed. But a lot of the time, when you play the game, and if you get other people to play it, is it really fun to play? And that's the key thing that we want to make sure is the key difference that makes it into a successful game. And it all boils down into these feedback loop. And in your games, you'll have there'll be positive feedback loops, and those are a bit easier to to focus on because you'll reward someone for success. So if you shoot a bullet and it hits something, it makes a little impact effect. So that's a reward. That was a success, a simple one. And then you get maybe you kill an enemy and you get a big not just that the scores goes up, but you get rewarded. Maybe there's like a pop-up that animates and it makes a nice sound. So you reward that type of a success. or if you complete the level, then you bring it up a little bit more. Or if you get a headshot in a first-person shooter game, it makes a little extra sound, so you go, that felt right. So you reward the success. Or it could be that you're building up gear. So when you defeat an enemy, you build up you get better armor or a better weapon or something. So those are the positive feedback loops, and they have to be balanced with negative feedback loops. And that's all there to balance the gameplay. Because if you get too much all the time, if you're rewarded all the time, it's not that much fun. So it could be, for example, that if you're using a special move, so like a double jump or a dash or some crazy powerful attack, then maybe it drains the health for that one. Or in this case of this game that we created, when you have a power-up, it drains the energy of that power-up, so you don't just run around with all the power-ups at the same time. So it's a balance between the positive and the negative feedback loops that has to be iterated over and over again. And through the whole polish process, while you're making everything more beautiful, this has to be the key thing that guides the game into the final success. And I'm nearly finished with this one. So I just wanted to say too that the analyzing the player progression is super important. And I think I'll just go straight into this one, which is I was a bit, we created a game, and the idea that we came up with this game was that since we don't have a level progression, or it's not like a Metroidvania where you explore a big world, and it's not where we gradually introduce different abilities. So it's a platformer, but in our case, we give you all the tools straight away. Normally in platformer, you'd gradually introduce, maybe you'll have the double jump ability now after reaching level 3, or then suddenly you get the dash ability, and then you get another weapon upgrade. But for this type of game that we wanted to do, we wanted to have it a skill-based game instead. And the progression and the ability to replay the game would base it on that you would fail fast and then improve every time. And on the screen now is an example. So by logging all the statistics, because it's one thing looking over the shoulder, but data is good too to look at. So when we released a free demo of the game to play, and we could see that players were playing it, and then it records the statistics to see what was the score and after how many games, and it does the score progress. And here is just all the data is anonymized, so we don't know who played the game. And it's always like an opt-out ability for these type of data things that you have to think of. But in this case, there was a player who's played 973 games, and we can see from the graph here, by just tracking it, that they started by just like we were hoping. And when we did our initial testing, we could see that the player was playing, and they started to die pretty soon. Here's 30 seconds of gameplay, and then suddenly here was a spike after, and it's different from player to player, but this one reached 100,000 after 70 games. And then we could see they kept playing, and then started to get to 300,000. And all the time, it's this type of data will help you in your game. When you start to record those type of things, you'll see that you can back it up. So looking over the shoulder will give you direct feedback, but logging these type of this type of information will give you a lot more.
This is a really great example of what our intention is with the program, is to say to you, here's an example of Stefan capturing scores, analyzing the scores, and seeing, do we have our tuning and our progression correct within our overall game? That's what we did. This is how we did it. You should go do that yourself. We're not going to show you how to get into a game engine and code up how to do this. We're not going to show you the exact tools. Stefan can talk to you about how he went about doing it. But the goal here is not to teach you technically how to hook it up. The goal here is to teach you, here's a thing you need to be focused on and implementing and thinking about. So let me be really clear on that. I know a lot of folks are thinking, oh, we're going to fire up Unreal Engine, and we're going to fire up the analyzer system, and we're going to spend 2 hours implementing the analyzer system. That's not what we're trying to do here. It'd take years and years and years to actually go through all of the technical, and we have people who are Unity and Godot and Unreal. So we're showing the principles, we're showing the practices, and we're giving an example of it. Just, again, trying to be super clear on that.
Yeah, I can actually jump to this last one, because I think the focus here is, I think this ties in so well to what you were saying, because there are a lot of engine courses out there, how to make a prototype and how to make that vertical slice. But the program that we're focusing on here is taking that knowledge and then applying that. So regardless of, so the whole program is split into 3 main phases. It's 6 weeks and 6 modules. But the first one is about prototyping and design. And then in the middle block, it's about the development. and the polish of the game. And in the third one, it's about the marketing and outreach and trying to get it seen by and launching it on Steam. So all the launch process and everything that's required to put it on Steam, the pipeline to upload it, and making sure that the key art is there, and understanding how to frame your game and how to get it seen and what the tools are. So all of that is included. But the reason why we can't make it an engine specific thing is because it would probably eat up so much time to specifically do if we were to do the recording of the statistics code by code, then it would be engine specific, and it wouldn't quite work that way. But saying that, there's I was happy everything has been recorded, so that all the video material is there, and some of it is going to be delivered through different devlogs through the program, but it's also the content is there. So if there are questions about specific parts, for example, about the statistics, all of that is available and recorded, and I've got access to all of that type of source code. So if there are specific questions about something, that's a key thing, we can dig out a few of the ideas from there. But the focus is to bring this whole, how do we get this into a game? And I think a lot of the stuff here is stuff that I wish I would have known so much sooner, that it's taken me many, many, many years. And I think a lot of people might not understand either yet that this is, a lot of the stuff in here is what will separate the game from succeeding or not succeeding on Steam. So I think it could, if you come back to the material too, when you're in a different stage of the game. So if you're in the prototype stage now, we can run through the program and apply a lot of the ideas from the prototyping phase and plan a little bit for the development phase. But then it's always possible, like when it comes to launch time, it's like going back through it. There are tools included too, like checklists and templates that you can use. So when it comes to documenting your game design or running through checklists about visual appeal for your game, so it comes with those type of checklists too, that you can apply even if it's in a month now, or in a half a year, or in 2 years. So those type of tools will be there.
Stefan, let's take 5 minutes now just to talk specifically about the program. We've mentioned it a bunch, and I know a lot of people are here. It's like, hey, tell me about the program. I've got some questions about it. So let's talk about it, and then we'll take general questions, whatever you guys want to ask us. So let me share my screen here. This is, if you go over to GameDev.tv and look for the Ultimate Indie Program, this is what it is. This is what we've been talking about. The doors close in 6 days' time. So we're starting on the 7th, the 7th of this month. And we won't be running again probably for another 6 months. If you jump in there, check it out, watch the video, see what it's all about. A whole bunch of what you'll learn. Hopefully that answers your questions. In terms of what's included, the meat of it is a whole bunch of learning in video tutorial format that we've created for you, video lectures. And this goes through a lot of the things similar to what Stefan has been showing you today. Here's things to think about, his best practices, his recipes, his formulas to go through that process. You don't have to watch them all within the 6 weeks. I want to be careful and clear about that. I know when we went through our art program not too long ago, some folks felt overwhelmed. There was so much to get through, and they're like, what if I don't have enough time? A lot of what we've created will be relevant for you when you're making your second game and you're halfway through it and you get stuck not knowing, should I implement multiplayer or shouldn't I? And so a lot of these things, as we're going through the program, we'd encourage you to watch as much as you can, but it might not be relevant. You might not need it at the moment. You might go through it a little bit quicker. It's intended to be a library that sits there for years to come. You're like, hang on a minute. Those guys were telling me about a particular approach for this. I'll go watch the videos. There it is. I need that right now. So I want to be really, really clear. If you've got lots of time, you'll get a lot of benefit out of going through those lectures now. If you don't have as much time, that's okay. You won't be left behind. No soldier left behind. And so we're saying at least 5 hours a week is a good amount. If you've only got 1 hour a week, you're not really going to get much done. So you need more than 1 hour a week, but you don't need 20 hours a week. If you've got a job, it's totally fine. You're not going to get left behind. And the other big chunk of it is the live coaching calls, where Stefan and I, in a similar format to this, will be taking questions. We'll be talking about what we've gone through in that particular module for that particular week. So we have a call each week of the program, and you can show us your game. You can show us your idea. You can say, I'm getting stuck and I don't know why. Why is my game so boring? I'm starting to work on my marketing and I don't know what to do. Here's my Steam launch page. What should I do to improve? I don't even know how to make anything. Where shall I start? So that's where you can talk to us, and we can go through your exact specific example. And on top of that, we have our Discord server that's just for people in the program, as well as our team, our support team, and Stefan and myself being in there as well. So you can show us what you're working on. You can talk about your problems. You can say where you're getting stuck. And this for me is the magic of being part of a program, is that you don't have to do it alone. You can ask that question. You can say, I'm really not sure what's going on. And you can have people, you can ask people to play test your game, have a little prototype. What do you think about it? I'll play yours if you play mine. So the community side of this is really gigantic. And we're doing everything we can to make sure that that's as valuable as possible for you as you're going through this program. We say 1 year of ongoing hands-on support. That means after the 6 weeks, the Discord server will still be there. We'll still be helping you out. We'll still be answering questions. The community will be in there. So you folks helping out each other and making sure that we're supporting that whole process. So 6 weeks is the hardcore. We're all focusing. We're all in there. We're going through the structured part of it. And then another couple of weeks later, we'll do a final coaching call where we give you a bit of time to go and implement some of the things you've been doing if you haven't throughout the 6 weeks. And then for the rest of the year, the rest of the 12 months, you still get access to all of the Discord. And then at the end of the 12 months, the Discord server doesn't go away. It still stays there. Money back guarantee, as with everything we do, 30-day money back guarantee. If you want to see what exactly is in each of the different bits, so in week 1, we talk about design, we're talking about trends and strategies. So what's working in 2025? Stefan takes you through a particular tool that you can use to go analyze the market, what's selling well, what are the genres that are doing well, etc. And there's a bunch of content in there. Week 2, the module and the focus is all about ideas and prototyping. I'm stuck. I don't know what to do. How should I go about testing it? How should I create it? Again, we're not teaching you how to use Unity. We're not teaching you how to use Unreal. We're not teaching you how to use Godot. We're not firing up the engines and saying, let's make a project together. The whole reason is you've got to make your game. You've got to make the idea that's in your head. You've got to get that out there. You might be halfway through a game at the moment. That's fantastic. You can apply all the teachings to your game. You might not have started anything at all yet. That's fantastic. You can apply these to your idea. So we're not teaching you how to make one specific project. The project that Stefan's been showing you throughout this stream is the project that he built in parallel to us building this program, so that he could be applying all of the lessons, all of the theories, all of the things. If we're going to teach you this, he's gone off and done that in the game to make sure that it's the right way of going about doing it. And the cool outcome for the game that he's worked on, I say we, but it's mostly Stefan, just a little bit of me here and there, is that the game has a demo on Steam that you can go play and check out right now, Unfair Rampage Nightfall. And you can go jump on there and check out the demo right now. It's published. It's out there as a demo. And Stefan had a conversation with publisher, and the publisher said, yes, we love it. We want to help you get this onto Nintendo Switch as well. So Stefan got there and said, well, I better do some local multiplayer to add to it. And you can see, we'll talk about that whole journey, how to get a publisher, should you get a publisher? But the cool thing is applying all the principles in the program has resulted in Stefan having a cool, fun game, and that you guys can check out and play, as well as a publisher, a publishing deal, and something that is going to be launched soon, August, I think you said, proper launch. So we'll be taking you through all of that stuff as well, and it really helps focus. And you can see it's real. We're not just talking about theory, it's real. We've applied it. It's not a game that we made 7 years ago that made us rich and famous, and we're going to talk about what was relevant 7 years ago. It's something we're applying right now, today, to show you that it works. Okay, cool. And so then we're going to talk about development and into 2 main modules, productivity and tools. Here's a whole bunch of tools. Here's how to go about doing it, how to structure yourself and plan, decisions and polish. We've been talking a little bit about polish today. And then a bunch of marketing, because we know if someone's interested in getting their game out there, maybe making a couple of dollars, making your first $10, making your first $1,000, it's really important to understand marketing and how you go about doing that. Because we spend so much time figuring out how to use Godot and make games, and then you come up for air and you say, but how do I get this thing out to the world? So that can be tricky. I skipped over in here. You can jump into the show more, and then you can see all of the topics for all of these sections. So what are all the the module 4, here are the topics that we're covering, that we have lectures that are going to be created or are already created for. The other thing I wanted to talk about just briefly is, I'll put on this one, is a project we're going to work through throughout the course of the 6 weeks of the program. And that project is going to be specific to you. It can be 5 minutes, which won't be very good, but it can be 5 minutes, or it can be 50 hours. It's entirely up to you. There's no time mandate on this at all. You can start it during the 6 weeks of the program and then continue to work on it for the next 6 months. That's totally up to you as well. That's totally fine. But we'll be saying, okay, let's take what we're learning in the modules. Let's come up with a design. If you've already got a design, that's great. Let's improve it. If you've already got a game you're working on, that's great. Let's add some more depth to it. And we'll take you through the, what's the design of it? What's the idea? How do you write it up? Maybe the outcome for you is to finish from this 6 weeks, just finish with a solid game design that you're happy about. You've thought through it. You've played around with it a little bit. You've done some research. You've looked at the trends. You're like, that's the game I'm going to make, next after the program when I've got time. Or it could be that you get all the way to having a prototype, just a little playable prototype where you're like, oh, I like this, get some feedback on it. It's really important to get feedback. Or it might be you do a game that's got a vertical slice, or it might be you make a full game in 6 weeks. It's entirely up to you. You can spend a little bit of time on it. If you're new to game development, that might be all that you're able to do at the moment. That's totally fine. Or you can push it and do something bigger, deeper, more solid if you've got the time and the interest in that. So, the price here is, you can see it's $499. This is not like a course. This is a program. It's very, very different to our courses. Our courses are obviously far less amount of money. This is a $1,000 program that, because it's the first time we're running the indie program, we're going to say just half off. Please forgive us if there's any growing pains, but I think we've got it mostly covered. And it's something that if you jump in and within the 30 days, you're like, this wasn't a good use of my money, we'll give you your money back, not a problem. So that's the spiel on all of the program itself. I'd love to take questions now, if I can just get
while you look, I saw one from the Indie NB, and I think someone else was curious too, and I asked about legal and licensing part of the course, if it covers how to copyright and protect your game and its assets. And it covers mostly, like, if you're using other, like, either assets, or if you're using code from libraries, and it covers that part to make sure that you're covered correctly. So how should you do if you're using code that could be bound to different type of licenses, and what are your obligations to do? When it comes to copyrighting your assets, it's not so much, they're copyrighted by default, basically. But if you create them and put them in your game, and if you build your game, then it will be copyrighted. And there's no specific process where you register your assets in a specific database or something. And plus, even if you could do that, it wouldn't be international. So, and one thing that we quite see a lot, and I've been publishing assets and selling them for a whole bunch of years, and it's in my case, they'll take some of my assets and then just sell them in a different country sometimes, and it's very little that you can do sometimes to protect yourself against that. So the general idea here is that we probably not waste too much time on trying to do those type of things. And we cannot really offer legal advice because we're not like a legal entity in that sense, but we can give recommendations and our experience on that, on what's worth trying to protect and what's not worth trying to protect. So I hope that answers that question.
It's interesting. People only steal successful things. So it's, should I protect my idea? Should I trademark it? Should I copyright it? Don't worry about it. Like, if you become successful, people will steal it no matter what legal preparation you have. And then you don't want to go try to take some random person from a random country to court because they randomly took your assets. So the best thing to do is just focus on being amazing, and then, things will get stolen, but it's not going to destroy you. There was a question here, very practical question. Is it free if you have lifetime subscription? This is a program, so our lifetime membership is for all of our courses, and courses are in a certain bucket over here. This is because it's a program. There's a lot of live component. There's a lot of support. There's the coaching calls. This is not included within the lifetime member program, but the lifetime members do get an additional special discount on everything we do. So if you are a lifetime member, you will have received an email. If you haven't, then contact support@GameDev.tv And I don't know exactly what that deal is, but it's a spiffy deal. So we acknowledge that you're one of our loyal members, so you do get a reduced price on this program and all programs and all stuff. What other questions do we have? Just looking through the questions here. Stefan, have you spotted any?
Yeah. So we have. I think I have to scroll a bit here. If we made a prototype in 6 weeks, will Stefan and/or Rick try it and give feedback? My ambition is to look at as many games and feedback as much as I can, because that'd be a fun process. So if it's shared in the Discord and it's possible to do it, I'd love to try as many as I could and feedback as much as I can on it.
So the commitment we make is that anything you share throughout the 6 weeks, you will absolutely 100% have one of our team members look at it, give feedback on it, support whatever it is you might be wanting. You might be wanting someone to give it a play, or you might be wanting someone to check it out. So absolutely. And anything that is a game, here's my game, please play it, then definitely Stefan and I will have a look at it and play it and give you feedback on it. If there's a prototype to look at, ideally with no viruses and malware, that we can have a look at. If you've got, here's my Steam page, can you please have a look at it? So we'll make sure that everyone, at the very least, gets eyeballs on their major progress points. So if I've finally got my my prototype ready, or I've finally got my Steam page, or I've finally got my idea, or I've finally made my character, or I've finally something, then you'll absolutely get feedback on that. You'll get our eyeballs. And if you've got a question about it, hey, how do I make my character better? Or hey, what's wrong with my run cycle? Or hey, I'm completely stuck because I don't know how to implement this, then you get hands-on feedback on that. That's the whole point of doing this as a live program. You get feedback. Okay, so one last question from me from the Indie NB. I noticed it says you have lifetime access to the program content and the private Discord, so I wanted to confirm what the 1-year support included. Cool. So all of the lectures you'll have forever, while the internet exists and while GameDev.tv exists, you'll have it forever. The access to the Discord server, so long as Discord doesn't go and do anything radical like sell to Microsoft and completely break things, we're going to leave that going forever, for as long as we can. The 1 year is the guarantee that someone from the GameDev.tv team will be in there, hanging out, making sure you're getting support. And if there's anything that you've, 6 months down the track, you're like, Stefan, I've finally launched my game, can you have a look at it? We'll be in there having a look at these things. During the 6 weeks, all hands on deck. We're in there a lot. We're checking things out, and we're supporting throughout the program. And then the 1 year of support is where we'll make sure that absolutely someone from our team is in there helping out. And then after the 1 year, we're not sure. We just don't want to promise something that we're not sure about after 1 year.
Another question from Marcus from Oz. Are there any decision points which you should at which you should walk away from a game idea? So that will be different from case to case, of course, but we do speak a lot about different decision points, even from the early prototyping stage. So at that time, if you're not happy with an early prototype, then it's worth doing multiple prototypes and then trying to figure out which one of those is the best, rather than forcing yourself to do one prototype. And then, but I think your question is further down. If you've started to commit, you've got your vertical slice, and you're in a long, tedious process of getting into a polished. Is there a point where I should possibly walk away from that game? And we do talk about different, not specifically like when should you walk away, but it's very important to get it. If the fun factor isn't there, and if the interest is not there, and if you're developing this in sort of secrecy or trying to not share it something, then you probably you will need to get other people's feedback on it. And if they're saying, depending on what that feedback is, it's not fun, or I think it needs this, then it's the toolbox will be there for you to be able to see, okay, this is something I could shift it into, or that's not something I want to do. I don't, that's not the vision that I had for my game. And I've got a lot of experience when it comes to that journey, because we had a very long project with a real-time strategy game. We haven't mentioned that so much here, but it's like, what are the expectations from other players? Is it worth spending a year to do the update that they're questioning or asking for? Is that going to be worth it, our time? And so I'd be happy to answer those type of questions, and I'm trying to cover that as much as we can too in the program, to find those points. When is it worth doing this, and when is it worth doing that, and should you or shouldn't you do it? So covering that bit.
Yeah, a couple of other just quick questions about the program, and then we'll take a little bit of time if you've got any general game development questions while we're here. Yep, you answered that one. From Mark B, are there any courses included in this program similar to the 3D artist program that included many courses from Grant? We might have one or two that we give to you if we think it's relevant. But no, there's a lot more lecture content in the program itself than there was with Grant that he'd made specifically for the program. Grant was guiding you, go check out this course and then come back, go check out that course and come back. But in this program, it's just, here's a whole bunch of stuff that we don't have available anywhere else is the crux of it. And we learned from the artist program that we don't want to overload you with too many things as well. So we try to keep it very focused on what it is that you need to do. So no, probably just one or two on that front. From Nick Ma, I see the program closes in 6 days. Does it start then? Yes, it'll start the very next day. It'll be at this time slot that we did this call. Apologies for people who can't make this time slot. This is really the only time slot that gets all the people around the world with some degree of possibility. So it'll be Sundays in North American time and Europe time, and Monday morning Australia time. And it'll start straight away. It starts the next day after it closes. But you don't have to build anything. You don't have to prepare anything. You don't have to spend a whole bunch of time. We're going to go through things in the program. So you don't need, like, again, with the art program, I know there was a little bit of getting up to speed if you're not an artist. For this program, we've said, if you know nothing, that's okay. If you know a lot, that's okay. It's you can pull on the information you need now and not worry about the information you don't need today. Let's see. Does the program include game design and level design, how to make an intriguing game? We talk about it conceptually, but we don't go into the depth of here's how to design levels. So a couple of the design lectures that I talk about are things like, if you're stuck and your game is kind of not so good, and I know someone way back at the start of this call was saying they have a problem with their game feeling boring and dumb and boring, I think were their words they used, that there's a couple of principles you can go. There's a recipe. You can say, okay, does it have this? Does it have that? Does it have that? And if you go and audit your entire game, you'll find, for example, does it have choice? And I take you through how to give the player choice, or what choice is all about. And hopefully that creates in you a mechanism. I can say, okay, I'll go apply that throughout my game. At the very start is their choice. In the middle is their choice. When the player runs into a room is their choice. When the player exits the room is their choice. And that's, rather than getting there and saying, here's how to make a perfect level, which if you're making a puzzle game is going to be different to if you're making a first-person shooter. It's going to be different to if you're making a racing game. So we're not trying to do here's a very precise solution exactly that everyone should apply to all of their games. We're trying to give you the principles so you can think like an indie game developer and apply that to whatever game it is you're working on.
Yeah, and on top of that too, when it comes to level design, it's since it's different game genres, it's impossible to cover all of those. But progression and balance and the pacing of level design we talk about too. So at what time should you introduce certain things, and when is the player ready to take the next step? And that'll be different from genre to genre, whether it's more weapons or bigger, more technology or something, or if it's higher jumps to clear or something. So we talk about it in those type of terms instead.
Yep. A question, more of a practical question from Oysen. That might be one of those Irish names. It's pronounced like Ian. So apologies if I'm saying it super wrong. I'm on game 1, and we talk about game 1, 2, 3 in the program. If you're not sure what that's referring to, is it worth to make a small game to teach myself how to type, or should I change the concept? Game 1, it sounds cool. It's a typing game. Fantastic. I love it. Do that, and do it in a way where it's not trying to be the best game in the universe. Do it and then get feedback on it. The most important thing when you're starting off making games, if you're making your very first game, or if you've never published a game, or if you've never even thought about how to make a game, is make something that you're capable of making today You've followed a few tutorials and, oh, I know how to make a typing game. Do that. Add a little bit of flair into it. Add some polish. Add some particles. Add some a nice feedback loop into it, and then share it with our community and ask for feedback. And that process is not necessarily going to have you make the greatest game in the world, the greatest typing game, but it trains you. I do a thing, people say, I like this, I don't like that, and you alter it, and then you try again, you alter it, and you try again. At some point, you say, okay, now I'm either done with this and ready to move on, or I'm going to make a sequel and make it better. So sounds like a great concept. I think go for it.
Had another one from Sup. It's about asking how you feel about the VR market today. And it's personally, I unfortunately get motion sick every time I try VR, so I'm not the best person to ask. But we did look at that when it comes to market research in the first module. We're looking at how to analyze the different genres and see what if there's a gap there and what the popularity is. And VR is included in that one. And it seems to be. I don't know for how many years. I was back in the 90s. My friend was working on cutting edge like VR technology back in that day, and it feels like we're always on that. You know, it's going to happen now. It's going to happen soon. Obviously it's on. It's still on an increase, but it's not to the point where there's like that's the go-to now to do. So there's it's touching on it, but yeah.
Cool. Marcus says, side note, Marcus's football team is finally doing worse than my football team, although his team did beat my team at the start of the year. So we won't talk too loud about that. But anywho, I would almost describe this course as providing wisdom rather than knowledge. Is that fair? So the goal of the program is it's teach a man to fish is what we're trying to do here. And we see a lot of people get stuck following along the guru. If I'm watching a tutorial, I'm watching a YouTube video, I can do what they're telling me to do. I can follow along well, but when I'm sitting there on my own, I get stuck. And that's really common with any creative technical field, no matter what you're doing. If you don't have someone there to tell you exactly what to do, it's tricky to know. So we're trying to teach you how to think about those things. How do I think about my idea? How do I think about my project planning? When a player says, I like this, but I don't like that, how do I think about that? How do I resolve that? When I look at what's happening in the market, should I do VR or not do VR? A lot of these things are not, there's no exact right answer. Yes, do VR for 2.5 years and then stop and go do XR and then start making whatever the meta goggles thing is, start making games for that. There's no precise formula, but if you understand the tools and you understand how to think like an indie game developer, then you can look at it and say, you know what? I saw an ad the other day with, I think it was Chris Pratt and Chris Hemsworth, maybe, or one of the Hemsworths. And they were wearing the I think it was Meta, wearing the Meta goggle things and doing the whole, tap and listening to music and analyzing things and spying on people and all the things that we're not so sure about. But the fact that they're spending money on the biggest name actors means that there's going to be a little bit of noise about this and a little bit of activity around it. So you should be looking at that and saying, what can I do to make a game that goes in? I don't know if you can or not yet. Maybe it's too early technology and that they might not have an IDE or ecosystem. But if you made a game where people have their glasses on and they're walking around town, it's just a little fun game like the Pokemon Go style thing, maybe there's a big opportunity. So if you're thinking like an indie game developer, you're not just watching a tutorial and saying, okay, brackies, show me how to make a simple little quirky shooter game. You're identifying market opportunities and you think about what can I do right now, etc.
Yeah, Valithor has a question too, and I don't know if we have the details on that one yet, but will the future iterations join the same Discord server? Is it a growing community? So do you have
Oh, sorry, I was reading a question while you're asking that question.
Yeah, sorry. Do you have about the Discord in future iteration runs? Valithor is wondering. So
will we join the communities together? Is it that question? Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably. Okay. Here's the general idea with the programs is this will be your server that's yours for your cohort, for the people that you've got to know, you've gone through this experience together, and that will stay yours. We won't go and dump a whole bunch of new people in there and say, surprise. But what we will do is have within our our main GameDev.tv Discord server. This is the current plan. It might change, but the current plan when our main GameDev.tv Discord server is to have an alumni section for people who have been through that particular type of program. That's only for the people who have been through that particular type of program, where you can go in and catch up and share notes with the people who are sticking around and being active and being excited about these things. So that's our current thinking at the moment. But we learned from our art program. Those of you who don't know, 3 months ago, we ran a 3D art program similar to the indie program, but really focusing on becoming a 3D artist. And we learned a lot about how to organize ourselves in there, that we've hopefully improved on and learned from and can take into the future. Yep. Okay, awesome. Any other questions about the program? Any other questions about your game development journey? We'll stick around for another 5 minutes or so if you've got anything you'd like to know from us, and then we better bounce so people can get to sleep or get to work.
I've got one here from Christian. I'm a bit worried about sharing my game because I really like the idea.
Oh, I love it.
Think
I
it
love
could be
it.
stolen. Yeah,
I love it.
I think it made sense. Get feedback earlier as right as possible. Yeah, do you want to take that one?
Oh yeah, I had this so much when I started as an indie game developer. I kept my game a secret. I had a team of 3 or 4 people, and there was another similar game that was made in the same city. It was a competitor, secret. And the result was the game wasn't anywhere near as good as it should have been because we didn't get enough feedback. We didn't have enough people playing it and giving feedback on it. What I said before is people only steal success. They don't steal ideas. Everyone's got an idea. So if your game gets out there and has $1 million in sales, people will steal the idea. If you're working on a prototype and you share it publicly, you put a prototype on itch and say, hey, here it is, play it. People will not steal your game. They absolutely won't steal it. They steal success. They don't steal ideas. The best example I've got of this is in our live streams a couple of years ago. I came up with an idea, Draggy Dog, and everyone loved it. And we talk about it and talk about it and talk about it. All the OGs in this discussion today will know about Draggy Dog. I love it. I've nearly gone and made that game, but I've been busy, other priorities. No one's stolen it. There's not a Draggy Dog on Steam that's currently the greatest selling game of all time. So I thought it was a really the reason I shared that and the reason that we continued to talk about it was to show that people don't steal your idea, even if they think it's pretty good. And, maybe you think that's a dumb idea, but a lot of people thought it was pretty good. A dog that drags itself around by the butt. It's funny. It's interesting. So yeah, that's my answer to that. Don't be stressed about it. Share it a lot. You want publicity. You want to get it out there. You love it. You own it. You think it's the greatest idea in the history of all time. But most people are going to look at it and say, nah, it's okay. They're not going to try to, they're not going to look at it and say, I'm going to go make a platformer where you shoot and the terrain explodes. They just won't.
I've actually gone through that journey too, because when we created our strategy game, real-time strategy game, one of the concerns was that the command system was different, and we wanted to be kind of sure that no one else was going to beat us to it. But I'd say the value that you get from the playtesting and from growing a community and a following far outweighs the risks that are there for someone to steal it.
Yep. I've seen a lot of people talking about being stuck, about hitting a wall, about not sure where to go to next. I think that mindset is often common with people who are perfectionists. And if you're a perfectionist, it's another fancy way of saying fear of failure, fear of doing something and having people say that it's no good. And there was a comment just a moment ago, Muhammad saying, I'm afraid of the insults I'll get on LinkedIn. That's why I don't post. That it's a very natural, normal part of internet culture is you'll get people saying yucky things that make you feel upset. It's just normal. The important thing is that if you want to have any sort of public success, and you don't have to, success can just be, I made a game for myself and my family. That's cool. But you won't have any sort of public success. A lot of people played my game and liked it, or I made some money from it, or by publishing it, it allowed me to go do contract work because people saw I've got a successful game, or because I'd published a game, it really helped me get a job. There's a lot of great reasons to have a successful game. You don't want to publish a stinky game that doesn't help you get jobs. But when you first publish your game, it might be stinky. but you have to listen to people and get better. And if someone gets there and says, this game sucks, you're stupid, quit game development, those words are mean and nasty, but there's usually truth in it if you stop and look at it. If you can tease it, if you can ask that person, okay, thanks for letting me know it sucks. What is the suckiest bit of it? Oh, your player moves so slowly. It's so boring. Thank you. Like, you could have said it nicer, you douchebag. But I really appreciate the fact you went out of your way to highlight something that my friends and family wouldn't tell me because they were scared of hurting my feelings. So
Yeah,
it's really important you embrace the feedback, even if it hurts.
yeah, and the feedback will be harsh, and you just have to. I think there's being in a game development community with other game devs, it's usually pretty nice and kind feedback, whereas from players and in Steam comments and in reviews, they can be super harsh, and they will be, even for good games. If there's something someone doesn't like, it's going to be cut, slicing it, and it'll be even personal attacks in there and saying that you're an idiot. So, but I am on Rick's camp here too, where it comes to try to just critically look at it and see what is the truth in it, and try to learn from that one instead. But there will be, and it's hard to know. There's going to be a few very loud voices that want something, and it's the tricky thing is trying to filter which ones are just being loud and for not the correct reason, and what is the amount of truth in it that I need to adapt. So that's the tricky choice to do too, and not to jump on them. Whoever screams loud is correct. So you need to filter that and apply it to your game, and try to fix it. Not by listening how they suggest that you should fix it, but understanding that the problem that they're describing, and then you apply your ability to fix it.
Yep. So just finally, I realized I didn't put a link to the actual program. We've talked about the program. If you came here not realizing we talk about the the program, apologies. You're probably thinking we're just like trying to scam you and sell you, etc. But our intention was to answer all the questions that people have had about the program. It's a bunch of money. It's a bunch of time. It's an investment in your future. So we wanted to make sure we had a good discussion about it, and people aren't sitting there scratching their head and not knowing what it's all about. So, thanks for joining us, and thanks for your patience if you weren't expecting us to talk about it. But also thank you for all the questions, people who were expecting us to talk about it. I put a link there, GameDev.tv/dev. About as easy as we can get, shortest link we can get there. So jump on there, and that'll take you to the program. The doors do close in 6 days' time. So next Saturday or Sunday. It's a bit tricky. Stefan and I are on a different time zone to the time zone we've got on the program page itself. So it ends on the weekend. Wherever you're at is the right place for you to be at. The only thing that we ask of you is that you're committed to getting better as a game developer, that you're interested in making games. That's all it requires. You should have a little bit of foundation. You should have played around in a couple of engines at least, or an engine at least a couple of times. If you have zero knowledge about anything, it's probably going to be too advanced. But if you've played around in Unity a little bit and dabbled, if you've watched any of our courses at all, if you've played around in Blender and made some assets, then you'll absolutely be able to participate and do well out of the program. Yes, and as just one more time to reiterate, as Zio0 is saying, if you've got a lot of time during the program, you'll be able to get a lot done, which is great. If you don't have a lot of time during the program, then you'll just do it over the next couple of months or 6 months or 12 months or 2 years. You don't have to get a game done in 6 weeks. That's not what we're trying to say here. We want you to have some good output. We want you to connect with the community. We want you to learn a lot of stuff. We want you to be thinking like an indie game developer. So jump over to the page, gdev.tv/dev. Have a read. If you've got any questions, please do fire them to support@GameDev.tv. And as soon as you sign up, you'll be invited to join the Discord server so you can start talking to other fellow folks who are in there. There's a bunch of people in there already starting to share notes, talk about things, get excited, etc. So that's it. Stefan, any last comments before we wrap it up?
Yeah, just I think we do cover. There was a question about wish lists, so we are covering in the last module in particular about the Steam process and how to try to build a wish list, and about different thresholds and why it's important and how to achieve it. So we're talking about that. And there was another question about Unity, and we're not specific, even though this game was made in Unity, we mentioned before, it doesn't matter what game engine you're using, but we're touching on features for the different game engines. And the only ones that we will mention probably is Unity, Unreal Engine, and Godot, even though there are other ones. But then the question was about the input system in Cinemachine, and we're looking at the importance of using packages and plugins from the different engines, and we touch on which ones there are available and why it's so important to use those type of features. And then someone else, we had Randu XY is wondering about why Game One is mentioned. It's because it's a concept. Why is Game One mentioned? It's because if we sort of slice it into whether you're on your first game that you're ever developing, or your second or third or fourth game, because it sort of dictates on what bar you should put your ambitions at. So those were just a couple of the last few questions.
That's a good
point.
But
other than that, yeah, I'm excited awesome. To move forward on this one. There's so much to share, and it's going to be exciting to see what type of games are growing out of it.
Absolutely. And like I said, if we haven't answered your questions, or if you're watching this not live, support@GameDev.tv. Just make sure you tag it the Ultimate Indie Program, so we know it goes to the right person, and it'll go to Stefan or I if you've got a question specifically for us. So please do tag it. Thanks everyone for joining today. Thanks Stefan for getting up in the wee hours of the morning, and thanks to everyone who's stayed up late or joined us early. Love to see you in the program. If you do join the program, if you've joined just now or today, jump in there, introduce yourself, say hi. We're in there. Stefan and I will be in there to say hi and welcome you along. And really excited to see all the progress, and in weeks or months or years time, seeing all the spectacular games that we get to play, that when you launch your game, you give us a free Steam code so that we can play it and appreciate it, enjoy it. That's the entire reason we're doing this, is to play better games that you've made that you give us for free. That's the whole game.
I'll buy it if it's a great game, though. If you've succeeded the course and it gets me to want to play it to the point, I'll buy it too.
Oh, there you go. There's a promise. If you make a good game and Stefan likes it,
it has to be good.
Pay for it. Even if it's any price. Awesome, cool. Great. Thanks everyone for joining us, and we'll see you again soon.
Thanks so much. See ya.